Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I've decided to change the setting because my grandma isn't home, so I can actually get some decent lighting and not sit on my bed and talk. I'm actually sitting on a chair. Amazing, we're evolving in life. Here's an oriental door. Anyways, today, as you probably know from the title, I just want to go through kind of what to add on a CV or what to do with a CV. Because as a HR intern, I have gone through so many different types of curriculum vitae. I don't know whether it's like a thing of different countries having unique styles or if it's just a lack of experience or lack of responses from sort of HR recruiters. Because the thing is, some CVs are amazing, well, classified as amazing. I'll give some kind of spoiler, whatever teaser. I'll put the word somewhere, I've forgotten the word right now, but basically there's some that are perfect and some are just so suboptimal in my opinion and in anyone else's opinion. So I just wanted to kind of make a video, and I also want you guys to comment down below whether it's just a regional thing or if it's just been something that you've been told to do, or I'm not really sure. But I just wanted to make this video just for to share my experience and my opinions, and to also learn more about how to write a CV. So before I get started with this video, I just want to say anything I say is subjective, and don't take it to heart too much, because I see seeing a CV as sort of looking at an art piece in a gallery or a museum, right? Because one person might think, wow, this painting's amazing, but another person might be like, what the hell is this? This is a horrible thing that I can do. It's the same with CVs, because some people might think this is the perfect CV, doesn't need to be changed, it's good. And then on the other hand, some people might be like, oh, you could have included this, or you could have done this, you could have done that. And it's just a little bit of a grey area sometimes when you can have sort of a good CV. So I just want to say any opinion that I give in this video is purely subjective, and also some of the facts that are provided are just what the majority of things I've heard from other people commenting on my CV or other people's CV. So if you're struggling to write your CV, the first thing to obviously do is to just splurge out every single thing that you want to include, whether that's education, experience, volunteering, skills, things like that. I won't be going through that sort of how to build a CV kind of thing, but in this video, I just want to go through kind of refining a CV, if that makes sense. So what I would do with a CV is come up with a structure. Now, the typical structure that is used in the UK and in Hong Kong, from what I've seen, is you usually have sort of your name and a few titles and contact details at the top, and then it's followed by education. So that's usually, if you have a master's degree, it'll be your undergrad and your postgrad. And if you're just doing undergrad, then it's typically your high school diploma, whatever it was, whether it was Wales A-levels or normal A-levels or IB, etc. You get the point. And then you have on top your undergrad. So I'll probably have something here. And then it's typically followed by your work experience. So whether that's a part-time, whether it's an internship, or maybe a couple insight days you've done. And then after that, it's typically a volunteering or a skills section. These are usually interchanged. I'll get onto those two sections in a minute. And then after, it'll be additional skills or additional facts about you. So what you do outside of school or your academics, what your interests are, and sort of any other additional insight days that you couldn't have put in your experience section because you've done 20, for example. So that would be the typical structure of a CV. I have created a template. I did mention it in my previous video, I'll put it here again, which kind of just gives an overview of the general structure that I use personally and the majority of people use if they go into banking, for example. Again, like I said in the previous video, it really depends on your industry and what region or country you're in. So in banking, they prefer, especially investment banking and asset management, very front office based jobs. They typically just want a one-page CV. They spend about 3 to 5 seconds on average on every CV, myself included as well. I look at the name, the experience, the so-called buzzwords, which I'll get onto later as well, and just the general overall structure of how it's presented. Because in terms of how it's presented is sort of, you could think of it as makeup. So the more aesthetic it is, the more incentivized I am to actually read the CV instead of just skimming past. So if I saw it was 3 pages with paragraphs upon paragraphs, I would just skip the CV, because if you can't present your piece of paper properly to someone, then what would it be like talking to you? Would it be a massive jumble, like you don't have your thoughts collected? Or will it be very concise and to the point? Sort of that kind of reflection. In terms of what's included in the content, I would always include some sort of volunteering, especially at like the graduate level. If you're going for a more senior or managerial position, this may be different. I'm 20, I'm still at uni, so I haven't had the opportunity to even touch applying those jobs. But in terms of applying for internships and graduate schemes, I've heard that, volunteering, even if you have 4 or 5 internships worth of experience, having volunteering is always very useful, because it kind of shows the recruiter what you do outside of academics or what you've done in your super curricular. So for example, I've been in the Finance Society and I've reflected my involvement. So it's not all about like the incentive of getting a high grade in academics and just grinding out all day long just to get the best grade that you can. It also shows that you've done stuff outside, whether it be academic or sporty activities. You've done something outside of class instead of just focusing all of your time on just your academics and studying for exams, which kind of also indirectly reflects that you have very good time management. So now that I've drilled enough on the structure of a CV, I'm going to provide some do's and don'ts. So obviously I'm not going to mention everything, but this is typically what I've seen recently through the 100 CVs that I've seen, and also things that my lecturers have told me not to include on my personal CV. So one don't is to have essentially 2 columns. So I'll have a template up here. The ones that look and seem very aesthetic that you just type on Google, like aesthetic, for example, like marketing CV. Maybe for a more creative or artsy job such as marketing, this would be very good. However, for a more front office banking job such as investment banking or asset management, or even back office, just generally in finance, we typically don't like that. We just like to keep it very traditional and very simple. So it would just be your name and then all of your other areas. So I'll put an example up here. So very, very traditional, very simplistic. So it's easy to read for the recruiter and there's not too much going on the page. On top of this, if you have skills, do not just list the skill. The reason why you would want a skill section is to reflect on some skills that you may not have included within your work experience. So what I mean is, for example, if I've done wealth management internship and a HR internship like I'm doing right now, maybe I wouldn't have done as many data analytical tasks within those internships. And if I want to show off the data and analytical skills, then I would have data analysis. But I wouldn't just write data analysis. I'd give evidence as to where I used it. So for example, for me, I used it in econometrics and I created regressions using Probit and Logit regressions. And within those, I created a project and I got it first. So you would kind of condense those facts into a few bullet points and then write it after your skill. What I see a lot of the time is people list out 50 different skills, 25 different skills. It's amazing. It's amazing you know Microsoft Office. It's amazing you have communication skills. It's amazing that you have leadership skills. But these skills are things that everyone will list, and it's very cliche. And to a recruiter, it just seems like you're listing everything that you can, and there was no thought going into it. But if you just list the key skills that you have, and you can show evidence of you utilizing them through coursework or through work experience, then that's great. Then include it in your CV. What I don't want to see is 25 different skills listed that have nothing next to them, because it doesn't indicate anything to me. Okay, so moving away from the pessimistic side, what you want to do is write in bullet points. So for me, or any other recruiter, we only look at a CV for around 3 to 5 seconds. And within those seconds, you want to grab their attention so that they keep reading further. Because sometimes if they're very intrigued about your background, about what you do, they may look at your CV for a longer period of time, which just means they'll be more attracted to you and more likely to push you through to the next section, and also just remember you as a candidate. So getting back to the main point, having bullet points is great. However, having paragraph bullet points may be a little bit of a grey area. So what I would ensure to do is make your bullet points 1 to 2 sentences, giving a brief summary of what you did, because then the recruiter will be able to use these facts and points and phrases within your interview later on, and then you'll be able to give them a further description. So it's sort of like a headline or a teaser to a deeper story later on. Another thing that you should do within your CV is to maximize real estate space. So what I mean by real estate space is using it up to its maximum potential. So I see tons of CVs like this with, massive borders, massive font size, and it's just like, that to me suggests that you either didn't have enough effort to kind of maximize your 1-page space or 2-page space, depending what area you're going into, and also that you don't really care and don't have much attention to detail. So a massive border and large font just suggests that there's a lack of attention to detail and that you lack experience and that you're trying to fill up space more, which is why there's a larger font and lots of white space around your CV. So the third part of this video kind of goes through the job description and buzzwords. So every job will have a job description, which essentially gives you an overview or a brief of what the job is, what you do in the role, so i.e. key responsibilities and sort of the compensation that you get for becoming an employee at that company. Within the area that they provide you of key responsibilities within the role, they'll have areas such as you need to delegate in the team. So if you're going for a managerial role, it'll be delegating in the team, or if it's like a junior role, it'll be working within Excel or communicating effectively within a team. What you want to do with these words is include them on your CV. So you would want to tailor your CV for every single company that you apply to. Not literally every single time, but kind of have the general buzzwords at the beginning. So for example, here's an area of my CV. I've included, for example, led a group of 10 or created or presented. These types of buzzwords are very important to sort of attract the recruiter, and if it's for a large company such as a bulge bracket firm, then it will attract the AI and it'll give you a higher scoring system in your CV. Okay, so I've just had to relocate because my grandma's just come back home, but essentially what I'm trying to say with the buzzwords is if you utilize them correctly, then a recruiter will more likely see these, and especially if you use it as the first word of your bullet point. So if you say led, yada yada yada, or you say analyzed, yada yada yada, then the recruiter will see, oh, okay, so this person has sort of the skills or experience that were matching to go for this job. And this goes the same for the AI, so they'll highlight words within the artificial intelligence, and then they'll see whether anything else from the paragraph or bullet point that you've written is relevant to the role, and then that will obviously in turn increase the amount of points that you get to move into the next screening section. So hopefully I've given you some very useful tips, and like I said earlier, I just want to reiterate that looking at a CV is very subjective, and it's like looking at an art piece. So I may say that your CV is not very good, or then it's not improvement, or everything is not right. So for example, this would be a summary. So some people say that having an executive or professional summary is really good because it gives the recruiter a glance. However, some people disagree, including me, because it's like, oh, okay, great, you've written me a paragraph, but that's like more than 5 seconds, and they don't really use that time to look at the professional summary. They'll much rather see the applied area of your CV. So that's your working experience, your volunteering, and your skills section. So it is very subjective in terms of who's looking at your CV, as one person might say one thing and then another person will say another thing. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and share with your friends, and hopefully you can take something away from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.